I still remember the silence before he spoke. That it wasn't the kind of silence you get when people are thinking. No, this silence was heavier, the kind that hangs in the air after a wound has been opened, and Jonathan just looked at him. His childhood friend. His brother in everything but blood, the man who once prayed beside him when they were 8 years old, was now standing before him, eyes rimmed red, saying something no one in that room expected. "You ruined my faith, John." Silence, the kind that makes your heart pound even if you're not the one being accused, and Jonathan, he didn't flinch. He didn't argue. He just breathed. Cue title card. They grew up on the same block in upstate New York, Jonathan and Mark. They were inseparable, rode bikes through cracked sidewalks, played stickball until the streetlights blinked on, and on Sundays, every Sunday, they sat side by side in the pews. Sometimes they'd laugh during sermons, trying not to get caught. Other times they'd both look up at the stained glass, trying to understand the stories behind the colors. Faith wasn't a chore to them. It was the air they breathed. When Mark's dad left when he was 10, it was Jonathan's mom who cooked dinner for them for 2 straight months, and when Jonathan lost his grandfather, it was Mark who stayed up all night with him in the backyard, just watching the stars. They were brothers, simple as that. But then came adulthood, and distance, and careers, and life. Mark went to business school in Boston, Jonathan chased acting in LA, and with time, so much time, came change. "I saw you on that show," Mark had said the first time they reconnected after years. He meant The Chosen. Jonathan smiled, grateful, humbled, surprised. "Yeah? You watched it?" Mark shrugged. "Watched the first season. Got weird after that." Jonathan laughed it off. "It's different, yeah. But it's grounded. Human." Mark didn't reply. He just sipped his drink and looked out the window. That was 2 years ago. They hadn't spoken since. And now here they were, in a church hall packed with people for a community event, and Mark had just stood up in front of everyone, family, friends, strangers, and said, "You ruin my faith, John." The words hit like a gut punch. You could hear someone gasp quietly in the back. Jonathan didn't move for a long moment. His eyes didn't even blink. Then, slowly, he stepped forward. "Mark," he said quietly. "Talk to me." Mark shook his head, voice tight, trembling with something deeper than just anger. "You were real, man. You were the guy who got me through my darkest days. You prayed with me when my mom got sick. You were honest. You were flawed. You were human. And then I see you playing Jesus on screen." He broke off. Swallowed hard. Jonathan's voice was soft. "That broke your faith?" Mark looked up. "No. Watching you become what everyone now worships broke it. You became something bigger than real life. You stopped being the John I knew. You started speaking in soundbite, posting scriptures, doing interviews where everything sounded rehearsed." He looked around the room. "You became the brand of faith. And I stopped believing any of it was real." Silence again. You could feel the audience freeze, unsure whether to intervene or let this unfold. Jonathan stepped closer, and when he spoke, his voice cracked. "Do you think I wanted this?" Mark blinked. "You think I wanted to carry this weight, to play the most controversial, misunderstood figure in human history, to have people call me a fraud, and others fall on their knees when they meet me at the grocery store? You think I asked for that?" His voice trembled. "I said yes to the role because I felt God pulling me, not because I thought I was worthy, but because I knew I wasn't, and maybe that's exactly why I had to do it." Mark didn't speak. Jonathan looked right at him. No acting. No performance. Just a man. "Brother, you saw the lights, the applause, the headlines, but you didn't see the nights I sat in my car, shaking, crying, begging God to not let me lose myself, begging him to remind me I was still just John from New York." Someone in the audience quietly began to weep. Jonathan went on, his voice raw now. "You lost your faith, and maybe some of that's on me. Maybe I didn't reach out, maybe I didn't check in. But brother, don't confuse the noise around me with the God inside you. Because he's still there. He's not in the camera flash. He's in that same backyard we prayed in when we were 10. Mark's eyes were glassy now. Jonathan stepped even closer. "I'm not your savior, Mark. I never was. But I'll walk beside you again, if you let me, like we used to. And just like that, Mark broke. He collapsed into Jonathan's arms, and the whole room stood. Some clapped, some just cried, but nobody moved, because everyone knew they had just witnessed something rare, something holy, not a sermon, not a show, but a moment where pride died and love lived. Later that night, after most had gone home, Jonathan and Mark sat alone in the same pew they once did as boys. Mark finally whispered, "I'm sorry." Jonathan smiled faintly. "Don't be. You were honest." "I was angry." "I'd rather have your anger than your silence." Mark nodded. "Is it too late?" Jonathan looked up at the stained glass above. "No. That's the thing about grace. It's never too late." They sat in silence, but this time it was peace. Not pain. A silence that heals, not wounds,